and welcome back to the 40% Better podcast, where we're talking all things leadership, specifically in the tech world. And Jacob has graciously volunteered to share his wisdom with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks for having me on. Well, wisdom might be very generous, but
we'll go for it. Wisdom is always, the thing that seems totally obvious to you, to somebody else is brand new, and they're like, "What?"
Yeah.
And so, that's what I'm always looking for. So the starting point of every conversation I have with a guest on the podcast is, how did you get started doing things that were leadership-ish? Like sports or school, or like how'd you get started?
Yeah. I can think back when I was younger. So my dad was in the Army until I was about 4. And then he took a pay cut leaving the Army to go work for what is now Accenture. So consulting. And so he did a ton of leadership stuff in the Army, right? Where the military is one area that people get like outsized leadership experience very quickly.
Yep.
So that was something that was just kind of indoctrinated into us kids. I'm the second of 5 from when we were younger, where it was like, hey, you take responsibility of like yourself, and you're part of our family, and there's a responsibility here. I can remember certain things when I was younger, and then I was very actively involved in Boy Scouts as a kid, and I can remember, and I still talk to this person. He was my scoutmaster. I grew up in Minnesota. We'd go winter camping, right? So it's like single digits outside, and you're sleeping outside. I can remember a Friday night, we drove like 45 minutes from our house out into the woods. There's probably like 8 of us boys, 2 leaders. And one of them, his name's Curtis. I'm literally talking with him on the phone in an hour. We do business together. And he was like, "Look, don't wake me up until breakfast is ready." We're all like 11 and 12, right? Don't wake me up till breakfast is ready. And we're like, yeah, whatever. And he like goes to bed. We're hanging out around the fire. We eventually go to bed. We wake up in the morning, and like the water that we were going to cook with, we left out instead of bringing it into our tent. So it's frozen solid. And so it just was just like, okay, well, it's our problem. Do we wake him up, or do we try to figure it out? Do we try to get creative? And there's a ton of memories like that of thinking, oh, wait, nobody's coming to solve this problem. Like, obviously there's people who love and support me, who want to help me, and they've put me in this situation so I can learn on my own. And situations like that, realizing, it always has felt very natural for me to just be the first one to speak up, or the first one to be like, hey, why don't we try this? And I think that came from, my parents pushing me to, do things, but also pushing me to exercise that muscle of being proactive, right? Like, I grew up with a mom where if we're walking into a store and there's a woman walking up to a door and I'm within like sprinting, she's like, you better go open that door for her.
Nice.
Or like, oh, somebody needs help. Like, hey, pay attention to what's around you. Like, jump in and help. And so I think that's really, and then recognizing as I got into high school, and especially adult work. Well, I worked at Red Lobster in high school, and very quickly realized, oh wait, the standards here are not the standards that I was held to in terms of being proactive and recognizing, hey, this needs to be done, just do it. And so very quickly realizing, that like I've been conditioned to approach this differently. And at times, being very annoyed that I was pushed to do that, but then so grateful of realizing, hey, there's a better way to do that. And one of the things that this scoutmaster would always say is, anytime we'd finish, he would say, and we had to finish the saying, and he was, be the leader. And he's like, look, there's going to be a million ways around you that you can make the world a better place. And often you're going to have to take the first step. And then everybody else is going to try to make it better. But you have to be the first one to step out. And so I'm forever grateful I feel so lucky that I have had like the jackpot of examples and mentors, both intentional and unintentional, leaders in my life.
I like that. I really, I didn't do scouting when I was a kid. I swam competitively, and like time,
Sure.
you just don't have time, right? But it's so and also I was the only child, which the inverse of what your experience is. Uh, my mom was like, go figure out what you're going to be doing. Like,
Yeah.
get yourself to swim team, get home. Kind of that feral upbringing of like take care of
Sure.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but I had some really, really good role models that talked to me about leadership. Or like one of the college jobs that I had was a restaurant that had this amazing internal coaching culture.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And anybody could coach. Like what was interesting was the general manager actively wanted new people when they came in to suggest new ideas for how we could operate better. Not because the experienced folks, they got so used to how it ran
Yeah.
that they couldn't see the friction anymore because they got so used to it, right? Someone new would come in and they'd be like, this is kind of awkward. Can we change it? Whatever, right? And that was totally fine. Like, you're there a week and you're like, hey, I got this idea. Could we try it? And everybody was like, yeah, let's try it. It was
Yeah.
very cool. Yeah. Um, yeah, I like that. When did you start officially like actually having a title, like manager, leader, whatever?
I think in Boy Scouts early on, right, you'd have, I don't even remember what it is, like, troop leader or something that is like the designated youth leader. And then, yeah, that I had some kind of entrepreneurial endeavors as a teenager with like mowing lawns. The most wacky one was my best friend's dad owned a business, and he had an office that was a 20-minute bike ride from our houses. And I don't even know how it came up, but he was like, look, if you guys are willing to come to my office building every day during the summer, this is when we were 14, and I'll convince you to the utilities people, the office management, to let you hook up a hose on the side of the building. Come, you can walk through the office and offer it as a benefit of working here. Hey, free car washes. Give me your keys. We pull your car around the building, which neither of us knew how to drive. We'll pull your car around the building and there's busy parking lots, and then we'll wash your car and we'll return it. We'll give you your keys. You can tip us if you want. And if you want, we'll detail and do all these other things for more money. That was like the first kind of like, hey, we owned this. There's a ton of really funny stories with that. Luckily, no insurance claims were ever filed against us because we didn't have insurance. But there, yeah, was that, and then a handful of different. I was very involved in my church. Handful of different kind of youth leader opportunities amongst the youth group there, and then in working in jobs. In college, I really just kind of got through as fast as I could. I was not very involved in anything, but then very quickly, as I was working, started working in data science. Had kind of this knack for, well, number one, everybody else had grad degrees and I didn't, and so everybody else is PhD in math and I'm not. I have an undergrad in statistics, but realizing, hey, look, we should make sure that this is useful and like see how this is going to be used. Who cares if we can make this like 99% accurate? If it's 98% accurate and it's being used, that's better than 99% accurate and not being used. And so that quickly took me into getting actual manager jobs, helping to manage both the work and the people. And then, kind of all the way up the ladder. I was at Fortune 5 companies, left to go to some startups. The last real job I had, well, real W-2 I had was as VP of data science, having built out kind of the whole data stack across an incubator. But also all throughout that, the one thing I've recognized about titles is often, well, the best leaders and the leaders who have the most impact don't need the title.
Right.
Often the title is a barrier to true leadership. because it introduces weird dynamics. But that was a really long, winding answer to your
No,
question.
but it's good. Yeah, no, I like the journey and the say more about where and how you saw that titles were a friction or a barrier.
Um, yeah, so there's an aspect to it obviously depends on the company that you're in.
Mhm.
If you think of the average company, right, I would probably your listeners and me as well, like we're biased to think of smaller startups. When you think of the average American, average experience in the workforce, in America, you show up to an office, there's like you climb the ladder, and there's these types of things where there's real work, and this is offensive to some people. There's real work, and then there's fake work. There's a level of fake work that has to happen in an organization where it's just the coordinating and the busy work to make sure that everybody's on the same page and that things are moving along. Whereas the real work is the actual production and creation of real value, not the coordination of value. And so, as people move, right, they'll joke about the Peter principle. Are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
People are promoted to their level of incompetence. That happens a lot where it's like, hey, they get promoted and then that they never got any training on how to be a leader in this. And they're automatically expected to know how to do one-on-ones, performance reviews, all these things, manage down, manage up, and they don't know how, and they get stuck. And then there's this ego where they may not even want to pretend that they know what they're doing, but now they got paid more. Everybody else views them as they should know what they're doing. And so it's just, they're stuck.
Right.
And it's not useful to them. It's not useful to anybody else because everybody else is having a subpar experience because they don't know what they're doing, but they can't admit they don't know what they're doing. And so you end up with this thing where then, sometimes that's very authentically a mishap. And other times people spend way more time on the fake work that might get recognized as real work and get put into a role. And so you end up, when I was at United Health Group, there are people who'd been there for 20, 25 years that I thought, wow, you're getting paid $200,000 a year. And you literally probably have not provided value for this company for 5 years. And it's just, but they kind of build their team and they just stay busy. And it frequently is a barrier then where that is viewed as success.
Right.
And
right.
so when people come in, they're orienting of that's what I want. I want the success. I want the title.
Right.
And especially once you get there, you realize, oh wait, this is my life feels about what it did before. And you may or may not have more ability to influence things for the better.
That's so interesting, and it's tragic.
It's very sad.
Yeah, because I think the Peter Principle is one of the maybe the worst business law. Because you're like, no, because and the reason it's so horrible is it has such a negative ripple effect on the people around, right? And you're like, and everybody, to your point, everybody having a bad experience, that's such I see it as such a solvable problem if folks, when they as they're going up, were like, oh, and this is stuff your dad would have said, right? Oh, if I can learn what I have to do in my next level to be a good leader, then when I get there, I'll do the job well, right? And I think that's one of the things the military, like my dad was in the military for 20 some odd years. And one of the things he always talked about was making sure that he prepared people for promotions so that when they got the title, it was a formality because they already were doing all the work. They knew everything they had to do. They were fully vetted, and that solved a lot of headaches. Nobody got promoted and then had a team that was like, oh my God, this sucks. This person's a jerk. I think that's such an important way to operate. And I'm just amazed that we don't have that in corporate America, because I'm sure it costs companies, it's got to be billions of dollars a year in aggregate that companies are losing because this behavior. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you have like the big flashy number. It costs $1 trillion a year in the U.S. for voluntary turnover. People leaving their jobs on their own of their own accord.
Wow, I did not know it was that bad.
Yeah, $1 trillion a year, and then a high percentage of that is I think 89% of failed hires are attributed to culture mismatch,
Right.
and a high percentage of that is based off of the manager.
Yeah,
And so
I would. Yeah, I would say it's all the manager.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I just that's
yeah,
if because the manager is the interface between the employee and the business, really, right? That's where all the time is, and if you don't have, no matter how good the culture and the rest of the company is, if your manager sucks, then you're like, this is a horrible company to work,
oh yeah,
because of this person, right?
yeah, because
Yeah.
they tolerate that. And I think that the other thing that is just kind of I don't know if unfair is the right word, but it's unfair for everybody. Is we as a society, I don't know if you experienced this. I, growing up, just thought, hey, at some point, it's just going to like click and I'm going to know. Like, I'm going to know how to be an adult. I'm going to know how to, like, I'm going to know what to do. Like, oh, taxes, magically, you're going to know that. Like, oh, some weird conflict, magically, I'm going to know what to do. And we don't, oh, when I'm promoted to be a manager, I'll just magically know what to do. And we all, like, now more than before, people are willing to be vulnerable and be like, hey, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm just figuring it out. But before it was like, oh, no, save face, like smile and don't say you have problems. And so everybody just grew up thinking, like the unspoken, you're supposed to know what you're doing.
Right.
When in reality is like, nobody's lived my life before, not even me. So like the situation is very different. You can have somebody who's gone through something similar and you can try to learn from them, but it's still all like net new.
Yeah.
And so the fact that we pretend that everybody should know what's going on is really unfair for new leaders. When people are pushed into a leadership position without being prepared before.
Right.
Whereas I think the thing that the military and adjacent does well is, right. In my first job out of college, it was like so stressful, and it's like selling wireless routers. Like it's like building wireless routers, and like the stress that was created by the leadership. My manager was awesome. The other leadership was nuts, and like it was crazy. And I had this realization. Oh wait, like if I don't do this right now, nobody's gonna die. Right. Nobody's gonna die. Like I might get yelled at. Worst case, I get fired. I'm like, well, actually, that's really not that bad. And whereas when you have experiences like in the military, right? Like your leaders, you want great leaders because it could be a matter of life and death,
Right.
life and death. And so of course you want to develop the next people because you want to be able to rely and support on them as much. Whereas there's a weird like artificial competition in the workplace often where it's like, oh, well, I want that job, or hey, I want that person's job, and just the weird things where it's not as collaborative. And so I think that the one thing that leaders can do that's super useful for developing other leaders is having a healthy sense of, hey, we have this problem. I'm going to tell you the truth. I don't know what the answer is. We're going to work through this, and then we're going to commit to this. But like, I don't know what the answer is. And the more that we can do that, to people on our teams, to, kids, mentees, whoever, just helping people see like, hey, I also don't know what's going on. And we're just moving ahead anyhow.
Right. Yeah. I'm very much a systems thinker.
Sure.
And I see everything in the world as a system. And I used to not, like, this is a new thing for me, right? Like I had this aha like 5 years ago, maybe. And it was something, I don't remember, something I read talked about systems, and it like flipped a switch in my head. And I was like, oh yeah, I have this system for how I make coffee in the morning and how I drive my car. And literally everything that I do has a system behind it. Right. And before I thought I was just random,
Sure.
right? Because I didn't see the system, and I didn't see, oh, the way that I've led my teams, I've used the exact same system after I created it. Like the first 4 years were figuring out a system, and then I just refined it for every other team I ever inherited, right? And I was pretty happy with the results. But I think that's one of those things where if you have systems and you know there's a system, then you can get curious and start learning the system and figuring out, okay, how do we break this down? And then the other thing is you go, oh, wait a minute, this system, this new thing I want to do, it's kind of like that system I already know, right? Like we do this with
Yeah.
cars all the time, right? I grew up driving American cars because that's what my dad had, right?
Yeah.
And then I got a Japanese car. Stuff's in different places, except there's still a steering wheel and a brake and a gas, right? And I learned the system. And then we got a German car. And I learned, right? And I abstracted in the system. And then I got a motorcycle. Whole different system.
Yeah.
But because I knew how to ride a bicycle and drive a car, there was a bunch of overlap. And I'm like, oh, here's a system, you know? You're talking about data science. When I learned my first database, I was like, oh, okay, this is where it's super simple. It's a database called Butler that doesn't exist anymore. And then I went to Oracle, but I was like, oh, fundamentally, it's the exact same system. Like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
PL SQL and SQL is a little bit different than what they did, but it's the same thing, right? And then, every other database I've ever learned since then, I'm like, oh, it's like that, right? It's got a lot of similarities. Programming languages, the same thing.
Yeah.
And so now everything I look at, I'm like, okay, so what's the system? How do I break it down? Where do I start? And that there is a gigantic anxiety reduction when you realize, oh, wait a minute, it's just a system. I just need to figure out where to start. And then what it looks like, right? What's the progression of the system? And that totally changes the game of everything, no matter what it is. Yeah. And it makes it easy to go, I don't understand how the system works yet for this thing, this new thing, but we can figure it out, exactly to your point, right? And I think, for me, I think that makes life easier because
100%.
it's not magic, right? It's like there's a system for something that your mom and dad don't know it. They never taught it to you as a kid, and you've never been in a scenario to learn the system. But now you do. Now you get to learn it. It's
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think neither of my parents can do. They always joke about that. All of us kids have, well, me more than any, I've ended up in very math heavy fields. And my dad's like, the last time I took math was in 9th grade. And he's
right.
like, I don't know any of this stuff. Right. It was more hey, here's a way to learn.
Yeah.
And then it unlocks this, even before we were recording, this confidence that, hey, you figured it out here. You can do anything.
Right.
You know, that mixed with the healthy amount of challenge of hey, you can do anything. And when you do something that, I can give feedback on, I'm going to give you feedback and love you and point you in the right direction and help you understand hey, there's a higher standard here. I can think of, I can think of as well a time when I was a teenager, somebody paid me to mow their lawn. I'd mowed lots of lawns, like the rush teenager. It's where you I would just go around the outside and then go back and forth, and it doesn't look fantastic, but it's done. And one time somebody stopped me and they were like, hey, they did it. They came back and he was like, hey, look, I'm going to show you how my lawn is mowed. Here's my standard. I'm happy. I love that you did this. if you want to keep mowing my lawn, here's how it is.
Right.
You go around this outside twice, and then you go at an angle, at a diagonal, and you do all this. And he like told me, and he was like, look, this is how a professional would do it.
Oh,
He's like,
nice.
if you're trying to be a professional, like, this is what you need to do. You can keep being a teenager if you want, but here's how you do it. And it really is the, like, as you're talking about the systems and like learning and recognizing, that really is, you know, kind of wisdom and this like learned experience and lived experience of, hey, there are ways that things are done and they can be transposed onto other things. And so when we like learn through experience and are thoughtful about that experience and are actually trying to deeply learn, not just coast, then it makes it so much easier to apply into other things.
Yeah. Okay, so I got to ask, why the diagonal? What does that do different?
It makes your lawn look bigger, and it like draws the eye to the house. Yeah.
Oh,
so
really?
if you, so often in like really nice landscaping, the direction, and maybe there's a listener that like knows way more, and they're gonna be like, yeah, he's wrong. But if not, just pretend I know what I'm talking about. That at least this is the reason I was told this. It like draws your eye, and so you want to like aim it towards the house, and it just looks way cleaner. Yeah. And so they'll have even like the professional lawnmowers for people who are really into it. I don't do this. I just want my aim is to just not have my neighbors complain about my lawn. That's what I optimize for. But they'll have even like a drag behind thing that like puts even better looking stripes in the lawn.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Huh. I'm trying to think of like, how can I apply this to my current situation? I don't have a lawn. I mean,
California doesn't really do big lawns.
Yeah. Well, so I've got this side project. It's a farm.
Yeah.
We don't mow the meadow because the cows eat all the grass.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to mow the meadow because the cows go for it and they take care of it quite well. But I'm thinking like, the blackberries. I want the blackberries cut down, and we mow the blackberries like a few times a year. I don't know if that would work or not, but I don't
know.
Yeah, I think this weekend I might try this and see how it works out. Like, let's cut an angle and see if it does anything for me. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, it's so interesting. All those things you learn. So as you've been doing your leadership journey, through small companies, big companies, all this stuff, have you noticed any consistent systems that you're like, oh yeah, we, other than like the obvious, like HR onboarding is very cookie cutter.
Yeah, there's definitely, there's some things that I've learned that I've carried with me in terms of like how to have the best relationships with people and how to best frame the working experience. One that comes to mind, there's a book that I read, I don't know, 10 years ago called The Alliance. It's by Reid Hoffman.
Oh yeah.
Right. Where he frames work in a totally different way I've brought it everywhere I've gone, and it blows everybody's mind who hasn't heard about it. And they're like, wait, why are we being treated like real humans? And it's just a very genuine, caring approach to work. Another thing that I realized early on in my career, when something didn't make sense that happened, and I was like, what just happened here? Came to the realization that we all, as human beings, are just still operating off of emotion most of the time.
Oh,
and
definitely.
So there's little things that can happen that from the outside, from a business numbers, in perspective, makes zero sense. But if you really dumb it down and think about, okay, how would a kindergartner react to these emotions? What's the natural? Oh, you're feeling left out. Oh, you wanted to be included. You feel like somebody's stepping on your toes. You thought that was yours. Like these very elementary emotions drive all levels of business. And even when people try to think that they're old, they've matured out of it. No, if you were working on something and you thought you'd been given autonomy and somebody else comes in, that hurts. and it's painful, and it drives people to do irrational things. And so, kind of the biggest system like out of these things has been, okay, how do we treat people like humans that they are, and recognize that the way that you get the best teams is to want the best for the people on the teams, independent of the work output.
Yep.
Because if somebody that I hire is, having a hard time at home, and I'm like really pushing them to meet a deadline, it's not going to go well. Whereas if I, pour into them and care, and even if I take on more work while they're having a hard time, they're going to show up even stronger afterwards. And it
Yeah.
just creates true levels of, it's all kind of hokey to talk about love and work, but genuine care for other human beings and loving them for who they are and who they can be is the ultimate leadership move, because you're pushing people to be better, and you really want it for them because they'll be happier and more fulfilled as they're better, and pull along everybody else with them.
Yeah. I love that. It's huge. That's, I would call that very enlightened self-interest.
Sure. Yeah.
Like really,
Yeah.
because you're, at the end of the day, you're winning because your people are super happy and they're more productive, and that $1 trillion churn problem goes away, right? At least in your microcosm of the universe. And one of the first things a leadership mentor of mine told me years and years ago was, build your teams to be happy, and then they'll be productive. Don't worry about productivity until you have them be happy. And that was a real, at the time, like, it felt counterintuitive. And having experimented with this a lot, I can definitely confirm that all the data that I've got is that happy teams are more higher producing, and that you can't get the productivity if they're not happy. It's just, you have to get the happy people, and it's a long-term investment. It's not a,
Yep.
You have to be playing the long game and not be thinking, oh, I'm going to get this to magically flip in 5 minutes. Like, it just doesn't work that way,
Yeah. Or even 5 months.
Yeah. Yeah. You can get people to be better in 5 months, but it's this, the level they hit in 5 months, right, is still not the level they're going to hit in 2 years.
Yeah.
And then, and there's always, I think there's always, it's like video games. There's always levels to unlock, and there's different kinds of interesting prizes that pop up as you're going along that you can't predict, right? You're like, oh, wait a minute, hang on. This person all of a sudden like blossomed in a way that I wasn't expecting, like, that's amazing. And it's just care and feeding, Yeah.
Yeah. Even if it is harder in the moment, right? Like the idea of enlightened self-interest. I, for a while, like, struggled feeling not manipulative, but like disingenuine at times when it's like, oh, if I lean into like helping somebody be happy, they'll be better for me. But like, the reason I'm doing it is because they'll be better. And there's kind of this like fake it till you make it, right? Where I'm I have 4 kids, 4 girls. My 8-year-old, is already 8 going on 15, and often has quite the attitude about things. And I'm like, hey, look, if we talk about, hey, okay, what is it? Is it a big deal? Is it not? It's a bummer, like that. What you're feeling is real. And hey, guess what? If you choose to be happy, like if you just decide, hey, I'm going to walk down the stairs right now and smile at my sister, like, you'll start to feel happy. Like your actions precede the reaction.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that's really cool about like genuine, authentic leadership is, if you want to get there, letting the actions precede the motivation often ends up in a virtuous cycle, where then you're like, oh, wait, you were more kind and interested in somebody and supporting them in ways that maybe you wouldn't before. And, like, hey, that's actually really fulfilling on all sides.
Yeah, it's totally true. Yeah, yeah.
And so it's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I see a lot of parallels between parenting and good leadership. Good parenting and good leadership. There's so many patterns that are the same. The flip side to it, sometimes I worry. I'm like, wow, that person sucks as a leader. I would not want to be their kid. Like
I have thought.
I don't want to say that out loud. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I think that, or I think, wow, I would hate to be their spouse.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
I'm like, if they treat me like this at work, or they're this oblivious to what's going on, man, that's tricky. Yeah, I was just talking with a couple of people before this about how parenting often is like the ultimate training ground.
Yeah.
Just for like so many things in life.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's so interesting. You're talking about, smile. And I remember reading a thing about how our brain chemistry follows our body language. And so your brain chemistry changes because you're smiling, and so it's that fake it till you make it that you said a minute ago, but it's also like, that's how our bodies work, right?
Yeah.
It's like you can get your nervous system to change your brain chemistry by your posture, right? And a lot of the stuff that when we're training people on leadership is all about getting your brain chemistry lined up so that you can do the thing you want to do, right? And be comfortable and relaxed about it. And a lot of it is, what do you do with your body? How do you operate your body so your brain chemistry gets better, so you can do the thing you really need to go do and have it be easy?
Yeah. I often, and I don't know if anybody's done studies on this, maybe there is something out there, or maybe I'm totally wrong, but my personal theory around this right now is there are some things that are hard. Like, there's a lot of things that are hard to do in life, that are uncomfortable. Though once you start doing it, it's not as hard as you thought it was going to be. And there's just this activation energy that's required, right? To turn potential energy into kinetic energy, right? Energy that could be doing something to it's actually doing something. It really is interesting. Anytime I talk to somebody and they're like, oh, well, I'm a really big introvert, or I don't like talking to people. I don't like asking people for things. I really don't like doing that. And I'm like, okay, well, I can tell you, I can pinpoint 50 things in my life that sometimes I was like, I hate doing this. I am so bad at it. And I was forced to in different ways. And now it's become, hey, it is so easy. Like, it does not cost me anything, almost no mental energy to do something. Because I, went through the continual struggle of, okay, I need to push myself to activate this energy. And then when you get there, it's like, oh, that's great. That's great. And, there's different things that for some people, public speaking is a big one that I often smile and, still encourage people to try. Of like, get in front of a crowd, like eventually you'll get less and less nervous. And there's some things that sure you get nervous for different things, but when you get up there and realize, wait, the worst case scenario is not death.
Right. Yeah.
Like, there's actually no physical threat here.
Yeah.
And your body gets over it and it's like, oh, this is awesome. When I was a kid, I hated asking for help, hated calling people on the phone. I would walk around the grocery store for an hour before I asked where something was. Like, dead serious. And I did a few times as a teenager. And then I was, anytime we needed for a while, my mom realized that and was like, hey, anytime that I need to call somebody and ask a question on the phone, she's like, hey, Jacob, I need you to do this for me. Come call and ask them. And I was like, I just, with every fiber of my being, do not want to do this. And it's the silliest thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, now I think I'm an idiot if I don't immediately ask somebody in the store where something is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's kind of a silly example, but
the whole, like, I have this philosophical perspective that discomfort's the win, right? That voluntary discomfort is the path to success in everything, you know, and I've taught my kids that, you know, and I model it for them all the time. And we talk about stuff, you know, that's uncomfortable, and we do stuff that's uncomfortable, and it makes, you know, I've got a 20 and a 22-year-old, right? And it makes it so much easier for us to talk about things in their lives when I'm like, well, you know, it doesn't sound nearly as hard as whatever it, you know,
Yeah.
whatever it is that we've done, you know, and the other thing I notice is that when they do something that's really hard, like they have a ton of pride about it. And so, you know, they'll bring it up and they'll be like, remember that time we did that thing and that sucked. And we laugh about it, you know, and because it's normalized, like in the moment, they don't complain.
Yeah.
They're just like, we're going to survive. It's not going to kill us. This sucks. And we're going to have a great story to tell in the future. You know, that's what adventures are all built on, is, you know,
the type 2 fun. Have you heard of that?
No, what's that?
No, I'm not going to remember. I think REI made it famous on their website. It's like with outdoor stuff. There's type 1 fun that's fun while you're doing it and isn't fun or is fun while you're doing it, but not, it's more fun while you're doing it than after. Type 2 is, it's not fun while you're doing it, and afterwards you're like, oh, that was so fun.
Right. Yeah.
And type 3, I think there's a couple of those. One's like, it's fun while you're doing it and afterwards, and there's like, you know, partying really hard, where like it's fun while you're doing it and then afterwards you regret it.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I love about living here in Utah is, maybe you can't see it. The hills right here are in the way. There's one of the like 7 highest peaks. I can see 2 of the peaks from my house.
Oh, nice.
Like everywhere I'm driving. And so it's like a hike. You don't actually, you're not climbing. But it's like a 8-9 hour hike. You know, you go up 7,000 feet and it's 15-16 miles there and back down. And I've done them both. And while you're doing it, it's like, why in the world did I decide to do this? This is miserable. And I hiked, one of them's called Lone Peak, and me and a friend and my dad, we went and hiked one this summer. And on the way down, my dad's like, remind me to tell you no when you invite me again. Like, but now every time I'm driving around, I'll be like, hey, I climbed that.
Yeah, exactly. And props to your dad for doing that with you. That is awesome.
It was fun.
Tell him he's my hero, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's very cool. I need to get my kids more inspired to invite me on things like that, you know? That's funny. That's cool. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock. I know you've got another call. Any last words of wisdom? I mean, you've had some amazing, like, really great pieces in this. I really appreciate it.
I think the one thing to, like, as you think about all of this, right, in leadership, the best way to be a leader is to know who you are and what you want out of life, right? And often when people hear like what you want, they're like, oh, well, you know, I want this type of a car or this type of a thing or like this title. And all of those are very fleeting. And it really comes down to like, okay, you know, what types of relationships do you want to have with people? And there's things that are way more meaningful than the often, you know, the things that people brag about with their achievements. And so what I've realized is the best way to be a true leader is to find meaningful ways to be truly happy yourself and to help point people along in those ways. And right, often that's going to come in some form of higher purpose in life. And, you know, recognizing that, hey, this world is way more about what you can do to help other people than it is what you can get out of it. And there is a way for every single person in the world to have that level of happiness. And it's like, there's no need to worry about somebody else taking from yours. Yeah, I mean, I could talk about that forever, right? That's kind of the premise of why I've been building the company I have been is in a world where we're just hyper optimizing for efficiency and automation. You know, we need that, and it will continue to happen. And there are ways that we can build really meaning and intentionally create teams and that will perform well, and where individuals are happier than they've ever been.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you.